Tom, let me tell you, that's so fascinating because um, for about 10 years now, on and off, I've struggled with like panic attacks and anxiety. Sometimes they come, sometimes they go. And most recently, I had a bit of an anxiety attack, basically, back in January of this year. And I was basically, spent like 2 months just kind of worrying and you know, just constantly on edge, really in a almost paralyzed state of anxiety. And I don't know what causes the anxiety, but for whatever reason, I usually, when the anxiety comes, a lot of times I associate it with a fear of the uncertainty of life, like the big philosophical questions, why are we here? And it really starts to gnaw at me. And the best advice I got to handle the anxiety was from some website there. And the advice was face it and accept it. Face the anxiety and accept the fact that you have it. And literally, Tom, like within minutes of applying this perspective to the anxiety, it would begin to melt away. And and so it's almost like it's like, okay, let go, stop trying to control it,
exactly,
accept it, go with it, and then that's actually what ends up getting rid of the anxiety. And in my case, that was literally the case. My anxiety was gone within like 2 weeks. 3 months of paralyzing anxiety gone in 2 weeks, applying 4 freaking words.
Right. And when people tell me, well, how do I get rid of ego? How do I get rid of these beliefs? And what I tell them is you have to get rid of the system. And how do you get rid of the fear? The only antidote for is courage. And how do you apply the courage? You have to accept the worst. In other words, you tell your fear, give me your worst shot and I will accept it. And if you do that, guess what? The fear no longer has any teeth. It can't bite because you've accepted it.
So true. It's like the old saying, the only way out is through. You got to go through it. You got to face it. You got to let it consume you, so to speak. And in that, well, I guess what you end up realizing is that whatever you were afraid of, most of it was just illusory in the first place.
Exactly. The paper tigers, you see? So you have to have the courage to accept it. Say, all right, I have this fear that nobody will like me, or I have this fear that I'm inadequate, or I have this fear of, you know, whatever. And you have all these fears, and if you say, well, okay, let's just face it. Okay, I'm inadequate. Say you are inadequate, and you're not as good at anything that everybody else is much better than you are. All right, accept it. That's just the way it is. Now, what are you going to do about it? Maybe you ought to start learning some things. Go to school, practice, practice some skills. Make a plan to do something about it. Accept it's the way you are and go on. And if you truly can accept it, the burden's gone. The fear has no teeth because it can't make you feel bad because you've already accepted it. And then what you find out is, oh, you know, I'm not really so bad at all this, just as much as everybody else about all these things. And I just was thinking it was an illusion. And it turns out to be a paper tiger. But you won't see that as a paper tiger until you have courage to accept the fear.
Wow. Yeah, that's huge.
And that all works that way because we are in a virtual reality. We're getting rid of fear is the goal, is the object. And the virtual, just like any trainer, when you're in a flight trainer, you know, there's a certain reason for that flight trainer. And the flight trainer will give you feedback. So if you pull on the wrong lever or whatever, you get feedback. You know, your chair jerks or something happens. Flash, your altimeter starts to, you know, go off. All these things happen, and that's your feedback to you're going the wrong way. You've done the wrong thing. Trainer for entropy reduction is the same way, and that's why if you don't learn these lessons, if you're not graceful with uncertainty, if you don't let go of fear and learn to accept them and so on, you're always living in strife. You're living in a soap opera. You're wringing your hands. Yeah, you have anxiety attacks. You're unhappy. Because you want to change the world. You want to change, you want to control and change things to be the way you want them. Okay, we all do that. We spend most of our time looking up on the front end as how can I manipulate things? How can I arrange things to be the way I want them? We think that about our children, about our spouses, about our jobs, about everything in our life. How can I make sure it comes out in a good way? Okay, that's the way we think. And that's all putting all of our energy in the wrong place. What you need to do instead is put your focus on stuff happens, not how can I make it happen the way I want it, but how can I make the right choices? When that stuff happens, I have choices of how I'm going to deal with it, how I'm going to interact with it. What's my right choice? What's the choice that is a choice toward love rather than toward fear? What's a choice that's not a fear-based choice? That's a caring choice, you see? Now, if you put your focus there, life will become very pleasant. Most of the pain will go away, you know, everything will be great. But if you tend to focus out on the front end of the equation, how can I control it to be the way I want? Well, that's just ego. Ego, ego. How can I make it the way I want it? How can I make things to come out good for me? And your life will never be very happy. And even if you're in the lottery and somebody gives you $20 million, oh, it'll be fun for a while because you'll buy a bunch of stuff, but give it some years and you'll be just as unhappy as you were before you had all that stuff. You see, it's just not, that's not the thing. That's not why we're here, is to collect money. If that was the reason we were here, was to collect money, that would make us very happy and our life would get terrific. That's not why we're here. We're here to grow up, you see, and getting the money doesn't make you grow up. So you're just as unhappy as you were before. The money's irrelevant. You can be very happy and be very poor. You know, that's not the point. So if you do things, if you grow up, if you let go of the fear and become love, and that's what you're left with. That's why I say they're opposites. So when you let go of all the fear, then you are love. It's not like then you have to go out and get the love. You are love when you let go. So that's what love is. It's a being without fear.